All right, let me see if I can help you out if you consider the Sony ZV-E1 in 2025, because I've been using this camera pretty much since release, since April 2023, so for about 2 years and a couple of months. I have lots of experience with this camera, shooting, filming, traveling, and all this stuff. And today I would like to share with you if it's worth buying in 2025. Long story short, if you don't want to watch the entire video, I'm still very happy with this camera. I don't plan to upgrade anytime soon because for my workflow, which is filming YouTube videos, it's more than good enough. And I would say if you value form factor, like the size of the camera, above everything else, but you still want to get good video specs at the same time, this is, in my opinion, still the best option out there, even in 2025. I mean, the only real competition you have to this camera in terms of like form factor are the Canon R8 and the LUMIX S9, which are great cameras and they are significantly cheaper. This one goes for $2,200 and the R8 and S9 go for $1,500. But I think in terms of like overall image quality and video specs, the ZV-E1 is still better than the R8 or the LUMIX S9. The R8 can only shoot in 4K up to 60p, whereas the ZV-E1 can do 4K 120p with a slight crop of about 10–15%, which is honestly not that noticeable in my opinion, at least. And also in terms of dynamic range, the ZV-E1 definitely performs better because I've compared it to the R8 and I definitely noticed that the dynamic range on the ZV-E1 is slightly wider. And again, if you want, the best image quality out there, the most flexibility in post-production when it comes to manipulating your image, the ZV-E1 would be much better than the R8. Also, in terms of like battery life, the ZV-E1 is better because it uses the big Sony batteries, whereas the R8 uses the smaller Canon batteries, which perform significantly worse than the ZV-E1. In terms of autofocus performance, I would say they are more or less the same if you pair them with the proper native lenses and stuff like that. Stabilization, I'm not really sure which one is better. Maybe they are more or less the same. But one aspect where the R8 is definitely better than the ZV-E1 is the overall handling of the camera. When you hold the R8 in your hands, it's going to feel much better. You're going to have a much more comfortable experience. And also the viewfinder, you have a viewfinder on the R8, whereas you don't have any viewfinder on the ZV-E1. But for me personally, it's not really a big deal because I never really use a viewfinder when filming videos. I just rely on the display. So overall, with, in terms of like the most important stuff, which is video quality, in my opinion, the ZV-E1 is still better than the R8, although it is more expensive, like I said. And if I compare the ZV-E1 to something like the LUMIX S9, I would say the S9 has higher resolution, 6K up to 30p, but only with 4:2 chroma subsampling, which is worse than 4:2, which is what you have on the ZV-E1. And if you do heavy color grading, you're definitely going to notice a difference between 4:2 and 4:2. And also when you record in high frame rates, the S9 can only do 4K 60 with a 1.5x APS-C crop basically, and only with 4:2 again, not 4:2, whereas the ZV-E1 can do 4K 60, no crop, 4:2, and also 4K 120 with a slight 10–15% crop, and also with 4:2 chroma sub-sampling, which is much better than what the LUMIX S9 offers. But I would say this term, the S9 shoots in open gate, so you can record with the entire sensor, and basically if you want to deliver a vertical video and a landscape video at the same time, you're going to have much better experience with open gate than not having open gate. And also if you use anamorphic lenses, it makes more sense using open gate, although I don't really have much experience with this kind of stuff, so for me it's not really a big deal. And I would say the stabilization performance is definitely going to be better on the S9 because Panasonic are known for good stabilization performance in their cameras. Although I wouldn't say the stabilization performance on the ZV-E1 is bad, it's just that probably the Panasonic S9 is going to deliver slightly better stabilization performance. But in terms of like battery life, I would say the Sony is going to definitely win in this regard because it uses again a bigger battery than the LUMIX camera. And autofocus is definitely something that Panasonic is not the best at performing. And if you film YouTube videos like myself, you're definitely going to have much better experience with the Sony ZV-E1 than the LUMIX S9. And finally, overheating. The S9 is known for like its bad overheating performance. Not that the ZV-E1 is best at like overheating performance. I wouldn't buy it for like professional commercial shoots, weddings, or maybe like professional interviews, because it's a compact camera with a lot of video specs crammed into it, and it's going to overheat significantly faster than bigger Sony mirrorless cameras. Although you can remedy this by buying like an external fan and putting it on the back of the camera, but for professional work, I would still prefer using like a professional camera with a cooling fan built into it, just to have a much better overall experience. But still, when comparing the S9 to the ZV-E1, the S9, as far as I've seen, at least on YouTube videos, performs worse than the ZV-E1 in terms of like overall overheating performance. And now in terms of like dynamic range, I'm not really sure which one is better, the ZV-E1 or the LUMIX S9, because I haven't really tried the LUMIX S9. Maybe it is just as good, maybe it is slightly better, although I doubt it, because the ZV-E1 uses the same sensor as the FX3, A7S3, FX6, which delivers fantastic dynamic range, colors, and all this stuff. But maybe the S9 is somewhat comparable to this sensor. But I will say that the R8 is definitely significantly worse than the ZV-E1, because I've actually compared both of these cameras. So overall, as you can see, like in terms of like the most important aspects, which is like battery life, autofocus, and then video quality and video specs, the ZV-E1 is better than either the R8 or the LUMIX S9. And honestly, these are the only two cameras that I know of that are somewhat as compact as the Sony ZV-E1, and at a not similar price point, but close enough price point. If you know anything similar to the Sony ZV-E1 in terms of like overall form factor and similar video specs, please let me know down below. But I think if you value, again, a compact form factor with fantastic video quality, the ZV-E1 is definitely the best choice out there, even in 2025. So again, I don't want to sound like a salesman or something like this, but I've been very happy with this camera. The video quality is fantastic, the autofocus performance is great, battery life is great, stabilization is decent. It's not like Panasonic level, but it's good enough. Overheating, I've never had a camera overheat on me in real life scenarios. When filming YouTube videos, I'm not really doing any professional work with this camera, and for filming YouTube videos, I never had a single issue when just setting my camera on a tripod, recording for like 30-40 minutes, and that's it. But I do set the auto power off temperature to high on the camera, just to help with getting a longer recording time before the camera actually overheats. So again, if you value, you know, a compact form factor and fantastic video specs, this is definitely a great choice, and I would highly recommend it. Although it is significantly more expensive than something like the S9 or the R8, and I'm sure for this price you can get like a, you know, like a normal size mirrorless camera body with similar specs, but then it's bigger, heavier, and all this stuff. And personally, I chose this camera because it's so compact and portable, but still delivers fantastic video specs like 4K 120, S-Log 3, fantastic dynamic range, and all this stuff. So I would still highly recommend buying this camera in 2025, and I'm not planning to upgrade anytime soon unless someone is going to release something better than this, smaller, or whatever it is. All right, I think this is it for today. If you have any questions, comments, and whatnot, let me know down below. And I guess I'll see you again soon. I'm gonna wait for the sunset in here and then come back home and chill. Thanks for watching.